We will now open the meeting at 1:04 p.m. of the Finance Subcommittee for the North Middlesex Regional School Committee. Today is March 5th, 2026. We'll do a roll call in order of who I see. Lisa Martin.
Yes.
Mike Labossiere.
Here.
And Keenan Francois.
Here.
And I am Kim Craven, and I am present as well. And from the administration, I see Robin Ivy, Superintendent Morgan, Nancy Haynes, Kevin Cormier, and Jeremy Hammond. Am I missing anybody else?
Nope.
Okay. My cricket. Wait, it's one of those days. If we can approve the minutes from our February 6th meeting. No, that was from last. Our last. Do we have the minutes from February 25th?
'26th.
26th.
Oh, 25th. Oh, I'm confused. Sorry. 25th. Yeah, I'm sorry. Were those not due?
Well, the agenda says February 6th, but that was not our last meeting date.
No, I'm sorry. Do you want to just, since they're not listed on the agenda, do you want to postpone them to the next meeting?
We'll have to table those to the next meeting. Did we have anything come in for the public comment?
Nothing. Nope.
Okay. So we are now at the FY26 budget discussion. I know it's very early in the month, Nancy, but are you able to give us any updates based on your projections for end of year based on the February spending?
Yeah, I'm still working on an updated report, but I did include the one that we had just reviewed last month I believe it was added to last month's packet. So it is still out there if you want to review where we were. I don't see, since then, we haven't had any major changes that I'm aware of. There'll be a little bit of shifting of tuitions for circuit breaker. I believe we'll be doing that shortly. And so once we make all those changes, we'll be probably asking for a budget transfer to shore up all the lines as to where they are, but it's not there quite yet.
So I know we will be meeting with the full school board on the 10th. I'm not sure if you'll have it for that meeting.
I probably want to have the finance subcommittee review it and make a recommendation to the full school committee. So it might not be, we have an April meeting, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do for the full board, and then, we can discuss what this subcommittee wants to do for sort of the time between the meeting on Tuesday and the next meeting of the full committee in April, and then anything after that as well, based on our discussions today. So if there's sort of nothing out of the ordinary or that you see coming with the February expenditures, we can wait to review those, but it will probably be pertinent for our conversation for FY27. Do any of the other members have any questions about how we're tracking for the FY26 budget?
No. We just our last meeting wasn't that long ago, so I guess it's not that surprising. Not a whole lot has changed.
it's good to hear that thing has drastically changed. And quite honestly, if there was ever a need for us to know about something, I'm sure the administration would let us know about anything drastic anyhow. So on that front, no news is good news. So if anybody doesn't have anything, why don't we go ahead and dive into the discussion for the FY27. I appreciate sending the updated numbers over for us to take a look at prior to the meeting. But if you want to review for everybody sort of the path that you took with making the budget adjustments, I know I would appreciate that.
So I can certainly start us off and then hand it off to both Nancy and Kevin. But obviously something that we were paying close attention to was really looking at all three member communities and trying to determine what, if anything, could be done to make our budget request essentially something that all three towns could support. And looking at Ashby, Ashby was already in a really good situation with regard to assessment, as was Townsend really for the most part, but it was really Pepperell that was still north of a 4% assessment. So what we did was, Kevin and Nancy were able to identify a little bit more that could be cut from our budget just through, looking at lines in the history of spending on certain lines, really at a building to building level. And that resulted in an additional $105,000 reduction to the budget, which really is not much, which I think goes to show that there really is very little space to make reductions in our budget asks. So from there, it was looking at our E&D and where we are this year and where we would hope to be landing next year. So this year we're right around 3.5 million. Our goal would be to be at 3 million next year. I don't necessarily think that we should be at 3.5 either. That's really too much to have in E&D. So the decision was made to make a recommendation to all of you to use an additional $500,000 in E&D, so upping it from $2 million to $2.5 million in E&D. And that put all three communities, including Pepperell, below 3%, which was really something that at that point in time, Pepperell needed, but also Townsend needed as well. Again, Ashby was already very, very low, I believe negative at that point in time, as far as an increase goes. To make everyone aware, it moves us from a 3.06% increase to a 2.9% increase. And again, gets assessments to a level that all three communities were requesting. But I do just want to obviously be cautious in looking ahead, because this particular year, we had a very positive shift in health insurance, and we're not really accounting much for that positive shift because we're not sure how it's going to play out in open enrollment. But there is still that possibility there could be some additional money that could be made available to the district if our subscribers stay as is and we don't see a big shift. The other piece that we need to be very cautious of is that we saw a real positive swing in our out of district numbers. So basically putting the district in a really good situation when looking at out of district. Those two things together are things that may never happen again. Just to be honest, I mean, in looking at health insurance, it really was a 0% increase for any of our active employees. And I'm not counting the GIC retirees. But that's something that is unlikely to happen again. I have not heard of another district that is seeing a 0% increase in health insurance. Most are dealing with increases that are north of 8%. So it's really unheard of, and a lot of that is based on the number of claims or the small number of claims that we had this past year. So again, it puts us in a good situation. We had already asked for in the budget some additional staffing. We did a complete special education audit, and we're hoping to come up with additional staffing in that area too, provided our scheduling gets done and we see how it really pans out. But the hope is that even with the budget that we're presenting to all of you, that we will be able to address our large class sizes, K to 8 that currently exist. High school is a little bit more of a different animal. It's certainly more complex because of electives, and it would be very difficult to solve all of those problems. But as far as the K to 8 piece, I think we're all pretty confident that we'll be in position to be in a much better situation next year than we are currently as it stands now. Nancy, Kevin, Jeremy, I don't know if there's anything any of you would like to add.
No, I mean, you pretty much covered it very well. I'll say that the 105,000 that we were able to look through, because I know it has been asked in the past about, going through line by line. It took 27 lines to save $105,000. So, so there's not as Superintendent Morgan said, there's not a ton of fluff there. We could probably find a little bit more, but if we did it all this year, we couldn't do any of it next year. So I wanted to keep a little leeway if we have to come back and maybe duplicate this, we'll have a couple places to go. We kind of hit our target number at 105, so we stopped there. Historically, it shouldn't put any of the lines that are being cut in any sort of danger. It's one of those things where, just hypothetically, the line is 30. The traditional average spending is around 24, so I kept it at 27. So it's one of those where there's nothing that's really going to cause, I think, a lot of pain points. It's just those shaving a percentage here and there, but there's only a percentage. It's not like anything went from 50,000 to 20,000, because those sorts of lines don't really exist. Historically, Nancy's done a very good job of keeping numbers where the spending is in such a way that there's not a ton of fluff. It's really just there in case a one-time emergency cost might come up. But largely, they're on track. So there wasn't a lot to play with, but there was a little bit to play with. So that's how we were able to get there.
I did just want to add to, again, as I've mentioned previously, using.
I guess the only thing I would add to, if I can, is, using additional E&D, although not necessarily right now a very popular decision, I think makes sense, because we, at this point, are seeing in the FY26 budget some savings that we talked about and have been talking about. So we feel pretty confident that closeout between that and also getting the Valley Collaborative money that we believe is coming in, has not arrived yet, but should be here shortly, is more than we don't budget for that. So that's around 250,000, just under 250,000. So there's a couple of places where we have those savings. If something were to change drastically, obviously that would change the conversation. But right now, where we see everything landing at the end of the year, we know we'll replenish. And again, Brad mentioned having that goal of being around. Our goal right now is to hit around the 3 million for E&D, so that we don't reduce it too much, but we don't leave too much on the table as well. So that was the concept of using the additional 500.
Can everyone hear me okay? I did just want to add to that, again, as far as E&D goes, because we do have that fiscal reserve policy that we've kind of put on hold. And using E&D in this manner is not something that I don't think anyone feels overly comfortable or excited about. But it really does get us to the end of the Student Opportunity Act, which is what we have been told for the last few years, that additional funding for schools that need additional funding will not be considered until the SOA is fully funded, and it will be fully funded at the conclusion of FY27. So the hope is, and I hope it's not a pipe dream, is that as we're preparing for FY28, we will see some of that advocacy, start to pay off, that we have all been, taking part in, and, going and speaking to the State House, speaking to our legislators. And the hope is that it does pay off, and that I think that they're hearing us. But until they actually start to move in the direction of taking action, it's going to be something that's difficult to believe that it's actually happening until it does, I guess, or that they're hearing us until it actually happens and they follow through and give us the funding that we need.
And actually, I want to piggyback one more thing, because I had a conversation 2 weeks ago with the president of Mass Taxpayers. I had seen him do a terrific presentation about a month ago about sort of the future of what state budgeting would look like. And I don't want to put words in his mouth, but the sense I got from talking to him is he would be wary about not keeping too much in reserves because of a couple of uncertainties that may be hitting the state budget. One is that the surplus tax, a lot more of it is actually being used as part of the operation budget. So like that, the extras that we got, like last year, we got bumped to 150 per student. Like that's not necessarily available, even if they want to do it anymore. So, I know we hear a lot of people say, well, the state might step in and give us money. And it sounds like that money is actually already being used in the Chapter 70 budget as it is. So that's less likely to come down. And there's a possibility of a ballot question in November about lowering the income tax from 5% to 4%, which would take $5 billion out of the budget, which would, again, largely affect what goes out to school districts. So he said between those two things, in the short term, dwindling down reserves more than you need to might not be the smart move. You might want to wait till 29 or 30 before we really start putting that into play, when we have a better idea of what those next couple of years look like just from a local standpoint. So I just wanted to pass that along. He's a great guy. He's from the area. He knows the area. So he knows all about what North Middlesex is going through. We had a really great conversation, but just something to keep in mind for anyone who didn't know, because a couple of those things I myself didn't know.
Thank you for each of you for adding in the points in the conversation about where the budget is at. I'd like to hear from other members at this point of what you're thinking of the budget as it's presented now, reserves that we do have, the FY26 budget, the spend on that, and what will be left, information that we have, some that we don't have on money coming in, and just where do you think we're at?
Yeah, I think that, so judging by what Kevin was saying, I assume that means that we are sort of in a good position for the rest of FY26, it seems like, and that we may actually have a little bit more left over than we had initially thought. But of course, there's the May is doing a lot of heavy lifting there, it sounds like, because things can change. But it sounds like that there's not a huge amount of risk to us bumping up the amount of E&D that we're budgeting for FY27, because it seems like, if anything, we'll have a little bit more than we were originally guessing that we would. But again, it's all sort of in the air and in flux. But it seems like for now, the plan that is being put forward here seems like a reasonable one, based on what we know now. Just looking at looking at the difference between the public hearing budget and this new R2, like revision 2 that we're calling it. It looks like, it's got the increase in the teachers, which is great. I think the more teachers that we can get into the budget, the better, because that's, one of the sort of pressing issues that we're having right now. And it brings the increase down to a level that the towns, if not happy with, but at least can accept. So I think, from my point of view, this seems like a good point for us to work from.
Thank you, Mike. Keenan.
Just curious, if we have gotten February energy and heating information yet, or when about that's going to come out.
Yeah, some of the schools are still outstanding, but I was looking at that today and there was a couple of cleanup items that I found, which is good news, on a couple of purchase orders. So I was literally in the middle of working on that today. I got through this revision and then started going back to the budget. So just stay tuned, but I think we're still going to be fine with where we are. The other point I guess I would make is that the state process is not finished either. So we don't know what the House might come out with. And if there is a saving somewhere along the line between now and say even town meeting or additional revenue that becomes available, we could then revote the budget using that new revenue and reducing the E&D. So like it's possible. And we wouldn't necessarily have to do that. We could just let it close out again, but it's another possibility. So if the House comes out with $80 a student, we'll have a little bit more there. And so we'll wait and see what happens. I think that's in mid-April, I believe, that next revision of the state budget. So just something else to consider.
Thank you.
And just to be fully transparent with the Finance Committee, an area, and again, I keep talking about the potential for there to be some additional money in health insurance, an area that we still have not addressed and we really do need to look at is some assistance in Mr. Hammond's department as far as an additional technician. So that's another area where, again, Chromebooks and technology is such a big part of what we do. It has been an ask for the past several years to have that additional technician, and it's never something that works out with the budget. But I do think that if there is additional money available where we are taking care of the class size issues through a combination of some new asks and the special education department audit, which was, again, an internal process, I do think that we need to look at making sure that the technology department has the necessary staff to keep up with the amount of work that's expected of them.
About
I don't see that as being a huge budget buster by any means, but it is an additional position.
could you give me rough order of magnitude what the budget impact is for a position like that?
Jeremy, do you want to? I don't. It's in the budget message, I believe, as far as an ask. Did you have a figure?
Yeah,
Jeremy,
let me look
at the top of my head right now.
Oh yeah, no, that's.
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify. It wasn't the first time we were mentioning it. It was in the.
No, I remember you mentioning it before.
Let me look up the number we had put in there and get back to you. I had put in an estimate that included potential insurance difference. So I want to
80,000 in the budget message.
Okay, then that's the number. Thank you, Keenan.
You're good, Keenan. Thank you.
He's quick.
Keenan has memorized it.
Well, yeah, because that was actually going to be close, or that was going to be a later question down the road. But I guess whilst we're on the subject, maybe it's not something we can. Well, maybe we can't get it into this year. I'm not sure, but can we get can you just give us a brief overview of how the department is currently staffed, and what. I understand the position is a technician, but what are the pain points in terms of what can't you get done under your current staffing?
So there are 6 of us total. I handle most of the application management for the district, as well as budgeting, facility use, things of that nature. We've got a data manager who does a lot of our student information system management, all of the state reports for the district, as well as the federal civil rights report. We have currently 2 network positions that handle all of the network infrastructure, switches, wireless access points, building system support like the HVAC system, software controls, the high school lighting system support. They do the hardware aspects and service pieces for the security systems as well. And we have 2 technicians that are currently supporting the district. One that supports, I would call them break fix requests for shorthand, for the Pepperell schools as well as the high school, and one that covers the Ashby and Townsend schools. There's, without having all the numbers prepared, the order of magnitude over the years in number of devices, I'm sure everyone can imagine, has grown quite a bit. So I don't know that there's a direct list of what we're not getting to at all, other than I'm finding that capital projects and larger projects are one of the areas we're starting to fall behind. And a lot of our support times are starting to get much longer in general. And my hours have been getting longer trying to keep up with it indirectly. So the position is intended to kind of improve that support time for the break fix. That's the primary aspect. And I've also been looking at other pieces that could be shifted, such as right now, just due to the numbers, I'm managing most of the Chromebook repairs and distribution myself. So I think that could be handed over to that position to try to allow us to adjust some of the other aspects. I could get into more detail, but I think that's kind of the big view, if that covers it, Keenan.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't want, I don't want to hijack a finance meeting and turn it into a IT meeting, but I'm sure that's something we can, I think this in general could, probably have its own subject on the agenda, but thank you for the 10,000-foot view.
You're welcome.
So for the FY27, and I know it's hard to project out, right? When we get through 27, what's going to be happening, and the external drivers. So Kevin mentioned the potential for a change in the tax rate, income tax. That's something that is almost catastrophic to a budgeting process, so that we are so beyond trying to figure that out, what it would do to municipalities across the state. So hopefully we don't encounter that for future budgeting, but I do hear that there are external threats to the process of budgeting. But I think looking at it, when I hear a need that directly impacts the learning environment, that maybe we can be creative. Like I said, I feel like the district deferred things when things were leaner, pushing actual technology purchases out to 2027 that could potentially be done in 2026. I would certainly be in favor of entertaining that, because it stays within the budget that you have. Might mean a line item adjustment in the 2026 budget, but to purchase the technology that would be needed, licensing or curriculum material, things that could be done in 2026 to free up budget for this position in the budget as it stands right now for 2027. I would certainly entertain that with the administration. If it helps the learning environment, if it alleviates a pressure point within the district, I think that's a feasible thing to do. Does it leave us a question for the future? Certainly, but everything does. But if it gets things moving along, it's certainly something that I don't know how the other members feel about a process like that. Lisa?
So the ask from Jeremy comes from way back when, because I know that he has, even before Brad's been on the board, and I would totally recommend another position, just because technology has grown so much in our district, and even with the new buildings or the new building, I know Jeremy's time with several of the systems has taken a lot of time, and so I think that if the administration can find a way to make it in the budget work, I think we should honor it somehow. I do think that using more in E&D is a good way to go this year. And seeing those positions come back into the budget is great for alleviating the class size and then staying within the constraints from the towns. I think you guys did an excellent job at doing that as well. So I push forward this budget, and also I push forward if we could get that IT position as well. So anyway, my 2 cents.
Yeah, so I think what you say, Lisa, is logical, right? That using some of the E&D this year, that we'll hopefully know a little bit more. Well, I can certainly support this budget as it is. What I'd love to be able to do is make a recommendation that we vote on this for the full board on Tuesday, that our committee supports this budget, that we move it forward, but with sort of the caveat that we continue to look at the budget between now and the town meetings for the municipalities, that we won't necessarily, we're not asking the administration to go down on the budget number that's being presented to us, but potentially changing how it's funded. So if additional funds come in, that the ask to the municipalities can still go down. That if, per pupil, we feel that that's going up, or, I don't know what you typically do with the Valley Collaborative, because I know it sounds small in the scope of the district budget for the school. What I believe is that even a $20,000 difference after this budget would make a difference for the municipalities, especially Pepperell. So I'm comfortable, if the rest of the committee is, moving this budget for recommendation to the committee on Tuesday, and that this is what is needed to operate the schools, but that if additional funding is on the horizon, or there's a way to further reduce the ask to the towns, that we continue to look at that. Does that make good sense?
I think
Yes,
so.
I think, yeah. And the way that I look at it is this is our ceiling. And then if there's different ways that Brad and the team can figure out of the funding and get our assessments lower, great to the towns. And it's a bonus for them and us. So.
In not knowing the actual numbers, it seems like for Pepperell, like I said, another 20,000 would make a difference, but I think where are they at? Probably around 100 to 140, still potentially short on their budget.
And I'm sure that their budgets aren't settled either yet, and they're still in their discussions with their town departments, which I know that they are because I attended the town meeting or the select board meeting, and their meetings are next week with some of their town departments. But I think they're working through that. And of course, their numbers, like our numbers, change, and we get information from the state. They also get information from the state. So I think this is a good start for everyone to be at.
Superintendent, I'd love to hear your thoughts and impressions. Where did he go? There you are.
I'm right here.
I've got to find you on my screen. I'd love to hear what you think about that from your lens, knowing that you would have the budget that you're requesting today, but wanting some flexibility if additional funds come in to reduce the ask to the municipalities.
Yes, so that is definitely something that I could support. It's something, quite honestly, that we probably would have moved in that direction anyway, just because we do want to make sure that the towns, like the schools, are staffed properly with the right people in the right departments. And again, I think looking at the budget, and I think that one big question mark right now is, where do we finish FY26? Is there anything that we can prepay? come the end of the year, which was a question mark. And then where does that health insurance piece truly fall after open enrollment ends? And then, again, I think that the only thing that I just wanted to put on the radar, and it's really more to get Mr. Hammond out of the parking lot at a normal time, because he is he's spending a significant amount of time doing things outside of what he should be doing as well. So outside of that, I think the district's going to be in good shape staff-wise. Again, with the combination of the positions we've asked for in that audit. And I think that I'm hoping that the health insurance pans out well on top of that, and we'll be able to give some additional good news to the towns come the late spring, and potentially shift some additional money in the direction of the three communities. So that's something we can certainly pledge to do moving forward, and just to keep pencil to paper from now through town meeting.
Appreciate that. And I know that it's a lot of work going through the lines and making adjustments and taking off that 105 plus or minus there that you did. Took some work, being creative with where the money coming from. And I just, I know coming into the last meeting when I thought that the delta for FY26 was going to be 1.6, and it was going to be a little bit more than that. If we can really just pay attention as we close out February, and Nancy and Kevin get a better perspective on that. And then obviously we have another month before town meeting after that, right? So if she's done with that next week, we late April is when town meeting typically is. So we would have the closeout of March as well, which hopefully gets us out of the winter. If we're still wintering in April, I think we're all going on vacation. That then we can take a look at that and first address the need that Jeremy has with seeing what he can purchase technology wise off of '06 that's been deferred, and what other things can be done. I think will give us a better perspective. Mike, I saw your hand go up.
Yeah. I was just gonna say from a procedural point of view, does it make sense to add that position, that technology position, to this budget now, or is that something that we would add on later if more money became available based on all the changes that could potentially come down?
I'll give you my perspective is that once we hand over the budget to the superintendent, it's essentially his budget, and that he keeps us apprised of how he's needing to use that budget. And if it's a shift in personnel, if it's a shift in building maintenance, then it's our place to help support the administration by line item transfers. And that it's not up to us to tell him, no, you can't add additional staff if you have that money. So that's why my thought is we take a look and sort of do the line item transfer for 26 for technology, because then in 2027, anything that can, like I said, deferred things have happened. If that gets bought out of 2026, the budget is the same, 69 million plus or minus. Then if he wants to add that position, he is in charge of day-to-day operations. We are not. Mm-hmm. That's my feeling.
So even if the money isn't specifically allocated to that technician position, if that money freed up, then they could use it for that, basically, is what you're saying.
That's my perspective.
Okay. That was my understanding as well, but I want, I'm still learning the whole budget process, and it's very complex and there's a lot going on, but just making sure that if that money is available to use for that position, then I think it should be used for that position, is because, I've talked with Jeremy a bunch about these issues over the time, even before I was a school committee member, because we're friends outside of that, and we've talked about the issues and the need for additional people to do all of this work, because there's so much to do, and Jeremy's taking on a lot and working late hours and whatnot, so it does make sense, I think, also given the reliance of the entire district on technology, keeping the department running on sort of not a skeleton crew, but like on a crew that's like just barely enough people is not great. It's not great to be operating at that level of like you're at nearly 100% utilization or more of everybody in the department, because that just leads to problems if somebody gets sick, or if somebody is going on vacation or something else like that, and now all of a sudden you have one fewer staff member and things start to sort of take longer or not get addressed in a timely fashion.
No, understood. From my perspective, it's a direct impact on the learning environment.
Yeah.
So, but Lisa, you're the expert. Anything that
no,
you
it
think is
can
out of
happen.
line of what I said?
No, and like we'll just do budget transfers. I mean, Nancy and Kevin, we've just transferred money, and I think
Cool.
that's
All right.
way to solve it.
Sounds good to me. Because in addition to the dealing with the class size issues, the technology, issues, making sure that there's enough people to handle all of that, I think is another important priority.
Agreed.
And you can call it a skeleton crew because he does work with a skeleton crew. All right, so what I'm hearing is we're going to push this forward to the full school committee, correct? This budget. Should we do a full formal vote on that, Kim? You want a motion?
Yes, please.
Do I have to put the numbers in? Or can I just say
What I would love, Nancy, is if you could put a name and a date on the document itself, not just the name of the document, so that we can always refer to it as that. But I think we do have to reference the numbers, and I would say that the school district is asking for a 2.9% increase.
Isn't it named R2? I don't know if I'm seeing that. I think I see it on every document. It says R2 on it.
Yeah.
Where do you see that?
On the bottom.
Oh yeah.
I'm thrilled if it's there, but
Yeah,
two?
we can easily put a date on it though. And the reason I didn't in this case is this is the budget that's recommended for adoption, which is the March 10th budget. If you had major changes or ideas that we would have changed this, I could have ended up with another version. So I kind of just called it Rev 2. Actually, it's Rev 2 of the adoption, believe it or not. We didn't even really look at the one in between. So yeah, it's not a problem to put a date in the description of the file names too, and 3.5 version, and that'll go to the 3.10 meeting. And after that, we will. What's going to happen is once the school committee adopts a budget, we would then sort of draw a line on that budget. It won't change. So that'll be the adopted budget until if there's another vote at some point. So that one would be the 3.10 version of the budget, March 10th.
I appreciate that. So I see the R2 in the name, but I don't see it on the document.
Yeah, it's probably in the bottom of the footer area, but that may not be on every single document. So I can make that more consistent.
Yeah.
Okay, because when
No problem.
when I print it, I'm not seeing that.
Okay, no worries.
Yeah.
We'll add it. So
right,
the only before you take your vote here, the only thing I want to mention is our thought process right now is to, if we use this E&D, the 500,000, is that we want to replenish that to the point so that next year's certification comes in as close as we can, somewhere around the $3 million mark. If we prepay a bunch of things in FY26, we will not be replenishing that number as to that extent. So it's kind of like it's a bit of a balancing act to try to see where we end this year. If everybody's conservative between now and the end of the year, we may have funds that we could use for like a prepay on technology. And then just, again, these things create this, we have the money this year and then next year we won't have it. So as long as everyone's aware, sort of that's the problem we run into with some of these things. So we reduce Jeremy's budget for hardware, let's say, as an easy place to go. We reduce it and pay some in 26. Next year, his budget doesn't have that money in it. 28 gets really challenging because now it doesn't exist in the budget line. So it's really just
Well,
it's a shuffle, and that's I think our goal is just to get to that 3 million and trying to make sure, and it's a moving target. So.
Yes, I agree with you on all of that. And I don't want to move a lot of things, but I think if there's something that relieves the pressure for that position, and we stay at the numbers that we were looking at, if we start to really, like, if something happened because of snow load or ice, or there was something that you came to us and be like, hey, this is happening. Obviously there's capital and stuff, but if there was something really that went wrong over the next few weeks, obviously that's not a possibility. And I understand that vulnerability with the budgets, but if we're not going to change from the budget number that you've presented this year, that's where I feel a better level of confidence. Like if we were saying to totally prepay a bunch of things and really reel back your budget, like take 500, 600 off the budget number as proposed, then I'd be worried about your budget tracking moving forward. But from my perspective, a few slight adjustments, and I know it's a gamble with additional money coming in. Hopefully from the state. I know that there's limiting factors there, but there's other tweaks that might come in on the other side that is not going to affect the budget number that you're presenting today, right? Because that number is going to stay. That's the number that we're recommending, but there might be little tweaks of where some additional funding can come from that reduces the asks back to the municipalities without a big heartache. I don't want to move things at the detriment of the education process, but if there's small tweaks that can fill in that delta just even a little bit more for the municipalities, I think it's worth the extra time that I know you all have to spend to do that. So I see lots of hands. Superintendent.
I did just want to ask, although the plan is to update that longer budget message, we weren't actually going to do that in advance of the school committee meeting, just because this is a more concentrated version. We were going to do it after the committee meeting, if that's acceptable. I mean, it's pretty much updated now, but we just weren't going to share it, and because things can get lost in the weeds that way, we thought going with the summary document and the actual budget lines summaries made more sense.
I'll speak on my plan. I'd love to hear everybody else. From my perspective, I think that's exactly the right thing to do. You put out a preliminary budget message, and we're already talking that we might see some additional changes. To ask you to continually look at the budget and potentially make changes, and then make changes to the narrative as well, the budget message. I don't know that we necessarily need that updated from my perspective until we get closer to town meeting and people can read it again.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
I don't know how others feel.
I'm in agreement with that too, because things can shift now to town meeting, and I think you should just. Right now, it's about the money number, not the positions. We just need to know where we're aiming for.
So in that case, would that be that? So I'm going to read it off this, the $69,532,560. Would that be the number that we would use for this budget to refer to it?
Yes, and you have to read, are we reading about the transportation assessment and all of that, Nancy? Should we read all of that in, or?
No, I think
that wasn't my question. I'm sorry to interrupt. That's what I believe the committee's done in the past. So I don't know if you want to, I have the verbiage because I have it ready to go for the school committee meeting. I just have it blank. So if you want it.
I don't think you have to vote it at that level. I think you have a documented version of the budget in front of you, this budget for, draft budget for adoption. It's the 2.90% budget as presented today. I don't know if you have to get to that level. Because you're making a recommendation to the full school committee. So you don't have to take the long drawn out vote.
Okay.
So, I think as long as everyone else is comfortable, you could do that. It's not going to hurt anything to do it. I just don't know that you have to in order to communicate that you've approved this version that's in front of us.
I think if we just do the short version, I'm for the short version, and then at school committee is where we really need the number. Because we're just making the recommendation. It's not. That's how I would do it.
My feeling is that, yeah, that we are recommending this information and this budget to go to the full school committee to be voted on, because our vote is only to move it forward for recommendation.
So do you want to make the motion, Mike, or do you want me to make it?
Why don't you make it?
All right. We're going to see how I do here. I'm going to recommend to the full school committee that we adopt a 2.9% increase for the FY27 budget. The draft for adoption R2.
I have a second.
Second.
Roll call vote. Lisa Martin,
Yes.
Mike Labossiere,
Yes.
and Francois,
Yes.
and I'm Kim Craven, and I'm a yes as well. So that is what we will recommend on Tuesday evening.
So can I say something, Kim? This is Nancy's last formal vote of the finance committee's budget. Like this is her last, I don't know. It's always been her baby kind of thing at North Middlesex. So I just want to say thank you, Nancy.
Thank you, Lisa. That's very nice. I feel like it's not last, but we'll see.
It's not. That's why I was saying
agree,
it
Nancy.
wasn't probably last. But
It's never last.
You
No, I'm
think
just
you could
kidding.
leave that
It could.
easy?
It's a really good budget. Honestly, I feel pretty good about this one. We really lucked out this year with the changes. I mean, Brad highlighted it, but going forward, Kevin, there's going to be some changes. There's going to be some challenges. That's the word I was thinking.
Well,
so
I
you
think
ended
Nancy
it on a good note.
Yeah, we lucked out. Yeah, I managed to single-handedly adjust the rates to a 0 increase for health insurance. So. Just to go out with a bang.
Good job.
Yes.
Just working with you for the short time that I have, I've really enjoyed it. You've been, so responsive to everything that we've needed. And I know I came to the committee at a really rough point, and you've helped to shepherd it in such a way that has been really easy. Quite honestly, everything that I've asked for has been there quickly. You've helped me understand it all, and I think you've been very tolerant of all the requests that we've made. So really do appreciate it. And I know that you've been imparting all your knowledge on Kevin, and he'll have great fun with us when you're gone officially, but I don't think we're going to let you go that easy.
Thanks.
So, let me get back to the agenda.
Solar panels.
Solar panels.
What's that, Keenan?
The solar panels.
The solar panels, yes. So we've got to, I guess, figure out what we are going to do with them. This obviously is probably a new process for the school, for us. So
Nancy
does the
probably has an update
administration,
for us.
have we, what is the recommendation here for us?
So I think it makes sense for there to be one or two people that coordinate this and try to work with Ashby to decide what the best path is. And I think from the district's perspective, their easiest transition for those panels would likely be to discuss with Ashby. I guess we don't have to negotiate with them on this, whether they would like to take over the PPA agreement. And if so, I don't see that as being a very difficult path. It will involve speaking to the attorney as to making the changes to the documents. The solar panel company would have to accept that, and presumably they would. We're quite a few years into the solar panel the agreement. And other options do exist, but I think that might be the easiest. However, obviously, what Ashby's next steps are on the building might change whether they are agreeable to that or not. So I would be happy to work with the town in conjunction with Kevin, because somebody obviously would need to, this may take several months to go through. But I'm happy to begin that process of having the conversations with them. I'm assuming from their perspective, it is a good thing if they're keeping that building, because it will help offset the cost of the electricity. So should be fairly straightforward, honestly. I don't think that it'll be difficult. If it is, we'll definitely have to come back and look at options 2, 3, 4, whatever those might be. We can move the panels. However, that wasn't a good recommendation from the company that helped us install those, because they're becoming older now, and the technology that exists now is different than when those were installed. So it may be not worth the effort and the funding to try to move panels off of there. So, I mean, that's just my thought right now. I'm happy to hear other people's thoughts if you want to go a different route, or if that sounds like a reasonable approach.
So this would basically be transferring this agreement over to the town of Ashby, essentially. So Ashby would assume all of the, basically replace district with Ashby in this power purchase agreement, and have Ashby take over all the responsibilities, but also collect whatever benefits accrue to them, as far as, I don't know if this has solar energy credits or other stuff like that.
Yeah, the panels they're behind the meter, so they basically reduce the cost of electricity on the building, the way it's structured.
Gotcha.
So they would take over the benefit of that hopefully at the same rate that's on the PPA agreement. And they're buying the electricity at that rate, but they also they'll have a savings overall. So I think it would be
Yeah.
and it would definitely cost something if the district decided to move the panels, maybe significant amount, just because, for one, we don't have another roof ready to go, and we did a ground solar panel structure, but that would have a cost as well. So yeah. I think that hopefully that's, if they have other plans for the building, that might change the conversation, obviously, but I don't mind being the liaison on that, and as long as Kevin's okay with it. He's gonna have to follow up after him. Yeah.
So I'm encouraged that you feel that it's easy to transfer it. I wasn't sure about that. That's why I was a little bit apprehensive about this conversation about what we're going to have to do. But if they can stay and they're willing, if Ashby's willing to take on that agreement, I definitely think it's the best route. I was, coming into this thinking in my head of like, okay, what do you do in this situation?
Yeah.
They also already have, what's interesting on the situation is they wouldn't actually let us sign the PPA agreement without an easement from Ashby anyway, because Ashby owned the building. So that easement already exists. So I think if we were transferring this to a third party, not the town and not the district, it might have been a little more complicated. And I'm not sure that legally we'll still have some legal costs associated with somebody acting on our behalf so that we can get this transfer done. I can't promise, but I don't believe it's going to be that huge of an issue.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like this is a simple matter of filing an amendment to the contract to replace, for the parts of the contract that are still relevant, replace the district with Ashby, and that would basically be it.
Do you happen to know, Nancy, off the top of your head, which engineering firm it was?
The initial vendor that we worked with was Select Engineer. I think it was Select.
Select Energy Development
Energy,
LLC.
yeah, thank you. And they're still around. I've had conversations with him. They also helped us with the high school and Ashby Elementary panels went on around the same time. And then we did an additional project over at Varnum Brook, which they assisted us with. They do sell those projects, so the actual owner of the PPA agreement is it's under a different LLC company, but I'm sure we can, work with whoever's holding the PPA at this point.
Yep. Anyone on the committee object to it?
Nope.
Nancy, moving forward?
I think we move forward with it.
Okay.
Now, there could be a school committee members or members that want to be involved. I don't know everybody's feelings on that. I am fine with just giving it to Nancy and Kevin because they can get this quickly done where they don't have to wait for a volunteer from the school committee to sit on the committee with them. That's my feeling. I don't know if that's how everyone else feels.
I just managed the solar project, so if I don't have to be involved in another one, I'm happy to not.
No, I'm good not being involved.
Good.
Yeah, we'll certainly keep everybody up to date. First step one is to see whether this idea is even something that the town wants to, they have to be agreeable to wanting to do it. But that's just sort of a phone call, I think.
Yeah. I feel like they would be silly not to, because if they don't agree to this, then it becomes much more complicated, I think.
Yeah. It gives them time too. And I think the people, it's a little further down the road right now in that contract. So it's not a 20-year commitment for them to finish out this agreement. That's a little shorter. So that's either a benefit or I don't know, or not.
How many, when did we put the solar panels on? What year?
I think the contract was dated October 2017.
Yes, October 24th. I'm reading, glancing through bits of it now just because I was curious. Yeah, October 24th, 2017 is when the contract is dated.
I'm still scrolling down.
It's a long document.
It's right at the top.
There's also a buyout of the contract,
too?
Not to complicate it, but somewhere in there you can see, I think it's Exhibit B or Amendment Addendum B.
Yeah.
But that wouldn't be my first choice, I don't think.
All right. So do we, I will recommend.
Does the school committee have to approve this process, or can we start just having conversations? At least we'll know more if somebody does decide that they want to be a part of the process. That's perfectly fine. But
I have had Ashby reach out and ask what we're doing with the process. So maybe a recommendation from the school committee would be.
I mean, this was asked to be referred to finance already. So I feel like this is up to us, and I think we have decided that we will leave it to you guys.
Yeah.
And if someone else on the committee wants to say something, then they can watch this meeting or read the minutes and reach out if they are interested.
Yeah.
But I don't think we need to bog it up with more bureaucracy. That is unnecessary.
Yeah, I think the time when it becomes relevant to the full committee is if they agree to make the change, and then we have to essentially sign the agreement as the committee. Then the full committee votes on it. The amendment is signed off on, and then we're all done. So
sounds good to me. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm sure, Nancy, that you are able to get the rate reductions or what it's been producing so that the town can look at that for an informed decision.
So no formal vote needed or
I don't think we need a formal vote.
Yeah.
Because we're not making a financial decision at this point.
Okay. Do we want Because right now on the agenda for school committee, I do have it placed, the solar panels on there. Should I remove that? Everybody okay with removing that then?
You
Or
think
do
we
you
can
want me
put
just
it
to
in under
update on?
the finance committee update?
Oh, you'll do it under there. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Sounds good.
obviously,
And then
as we have
Before
more
we get to-
information on the process and what exactly steps we have to take, we'll inform everybody.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
So then Robin, will you just put under solar panels under Kim?
I'll add solar panels under finance.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anyone from the public join us? Robin, anything public comment wise? Actually,
No,
now I don't see
nothing.
anyone join
Nope.
us. Okay. I skipped over our future meetings, which we need to think about. So if we are meeting the full committee, sorry, my cat is crying. The full committee on the 10th of March. When do you think we should meet again? Giving us time between when our meeting happens and before the town meetings happen. Should we look out like literally a month?
When is town? Is
Yeah,
it
I was gonna
the,
say, when are town meetings scheduled for?
Until the first week in May.
oh,
The
okay.
first Saturday in May would be, but by that time, there's elections before that, and so the committee may change people.
I mean, should we also potentially try to meet ahead of the next school committee meeting? Is there one in April?
There is one in April.
April
Yeah.
Because that,
14.
yeah, so if we do have our transfer, if we need to do a transfer, then the finance committee could make a recommendation on that transfer to the full school committee and they would vote that. So that'd be probably my thought process as far as when to meet. And then we may have feedback from the towns by then too, as far as, because we'll give them their assessment letters.
So should we do before Easter weekend or after Easter weekend? Because we could do April, like beginning of April, right before Easter.
Does the district do Good Friday off?
We do not.
So we could do Thursday the 2nd or Friday the 3rd. I mean, that's 7 in 10 days before the school committee meeting.
Yeah.
Everyone looking at their second monitors, checking their
Yeah.
calendars.
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
You know, like looking at, I got my school committee calendar, got my personal calendar, got my work calendar. So many calendars.
I'm good for whatever day.
Yeah, either one of those is fine with me. Second or third, I think it makes sense.
I'd be amenable to a like a 10 a.m. or 9 a.m. on Friday. I could do 8 a.m. too, but
I can do 9 on Friday.
That would work for me as well.
And works for me. How about the administration?
Is this April 3rd?
correct.
Oh, the 10th. Okay. Thank
Third.
you.
Yeah, I can't do the 10th. And does that give enough time for everything?
I think it will from my perspective.
Okay.
The only thing we may not know at that point is, I don't know, the house numbers, I think, come out sometime in April, but it is what it is. I mean, we can update the full committee too. of
Right,
what those
and
numbers are.
we won't have a really good perspective on the March spend. Will you have like super rough numbers? I know it's
Yeah,
like
but it'll be, I
3
think
days
it'll be
later.
okay.
Okay.
Third's
Okay.
okay for me.
So the 3rd at 9 a.m.
All right. Well, thank you again to each of you that were going back and reviewing the budget. I appreciate all that you have done this far, and hopefully some more good things will happen and we'll have additional good news. But I know that you've done your due diligence at this point, so very much appreciated. Anyone have anything else?
Good.
All right.
I'll make a motion. Are you ready?
I am.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Lisa and then Mike. And
Yes.
roll call vote. Lisa Martin,
Yes.
Michael Vassier,
Yes.
Keenan Francois,
Yes.
and I am Kim Craven, and I am a yes as well.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Enjoy whatever weather we're getting tomorrow.
Yeah.
Bye.
It's 3 weather.
Okay. Bye.